It's crazy how quiet life gets when you cut out the noise, the fake apologies, the guilt trips, the manipulative late-night texts at first. It felt lonely, really lonely. The group chats went silent. Weekends were wide open. My phone barely buzzed. And yeah, there were moments where I wondered if I'd made a mistake, where I caught myself scrolling through old photos, remembering inside jokes, good times that now I realize were built on one-sided effort. But you know what? That loneliness didn't last, because once the dust settled, something better started filling the space. Real connections, people I hadn't talked to in years, started popping back up. Old college friends, coworkers I'd kept at arm's length, neighbors I barely said more than hey to point one by one. Conversations started happening. Real conversations, not just, hey bro, can you do me a favor? But how? You been? Want to grab a drink this weekend? You okay? Haven't seen you around. Actual care, actual effort. I started saying yes to things that felt good. Game nights, coffee runs, hiking trips, not out of obligation, but because I wanted to, because I actually liked these people, because when I showed up, they were happy to see me, not happy to use me. Big difference. Huge point. One night, few months after everything, I found myself sitting around a bonfire with some new friends, laughing, telling stories, and it hit me. For the first time in God knows how long, I wasn't stressed. I wasn't waiting for the next guilt trip text. I wasn't wondering what favor someone was going to ask next. I was just there, enjoying the moment, feeling like I belonged, not because of what I could do for them, but because of who I was, period. And the best part, I stopped shrinking myself, stopped biting my tongue. If someone crosses a line now, I call it out. If something feels off, I trust my gut. If someone tries to test my boundaries, they're gone. Quick. No debate. No second chances. Because once you've tasted this kind of peace, this kind of freedom, you'll do anything to protect it. And the thought of going back to being the backup plan, the emotional ATM, the group punching bag, never again. Not in this lifetime. Sometimes, I still see their names pop up. Old group members posting on socials, trying to act like life's great, but the captions feel forced. The smiles look fake. The same people, still playing the same tired games. While me, I'm out here, living real, laughing real, loving real, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. If you've made it this far and you're still listening, that probably means you've got people like this in your life too. People who drain you, use you, make you feel small while smiling to your face. People who only reach out when they need something, who disappear when you need them, who laugh at your expense, but get offended the second you stop playing along. And I want you to hear this. You don't owe them anything. Not your time, not your energy, not your mental health. Nothing. I spent years thinking that being a good friend meant being available 24/7. Bailing people out, fixing problems that weren't mine, being the emotional first responder to every crisis, big or small. But guess what? Being a good friend doesn't mean being a doormat. It doesn't mean sacrificing your peace so someone else can avoid their consequences. It doesn't mean letting yourself become their plan B, their safety net. There. Emotional punching bag. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to outgrow people who only knew how to take. And yeah, it'll hurt at first. Loneliness will creep in. You'll second guess yourself. You'll replay old memories. Wonder if you're being dramatic. Wonder if maybe you're the problem. You're not. You're healing. You're growing. You're finally choosing yourself. And that's something they were never going to do for you. So here's what I'll leave you with. Start small. Mute that group chat. Decline the next favor. Take a weekend for yourself. And when the guilt kicks in, remember this. People who love you, for real, will never make you feel bad for choosing your peace. And the ones who do aren't your friends. They're just people who got too comfortable with you being uncomfortable. And now, that era is over. You're not their plan B. You're not their emotional crutch. You're not their joke. You're you. And that is more than enough. So go live like it. Promotion season came and went. As expected, I didn't get the title bump. Not yet. Paul still ran our team. Mark still made sarcastic jokes. And Samantha from HR still sent her passive-aggressive emails. But something shifted, because while I didn't get a title, I got something better. Visibility. It started with an email From Karen Point, one of the senior VPs, someone I barely interacted with before. Subject line, urgent. Need a lead for the Q4 revenue recovery project. Can you step up? I sat at my desk, reading it 3 times. Heart racing. This wasn't some data entry task. This was a major initiative. A cross-departmental, high-visibility, executive-level project. The kind of thing people built entire careers on. I walked down to Karen's office, knocked on her door. She waved me in. Daniel, I've been watching your work these past few months. My stomach flipped. You've shown initiative. You're consistent. You get things done without making a show of it. I need someone reliable to run point on this. I blinked. Me. She smiled. You. That afternoon, I became the unofficial project lead. No promotion letter, no ceremony. Just responsibility. Meetings with senior leadership, daily check-ins with multiple departments, direct reporting to Karen herself. And just like that, I had what Paul never gave me. Authority. Influenced. A seat at tables I'd never even been invited to before. But here's the best part. Paul and Mark had no idea how to handle it. Suddenly, I wasn't the guy fetching coffee. I wasn't the guy running their reports. I was sitting in on budget discussions, contributing strategy recommendations, and worse for them, getting praised publicly by directors. One day, after a particularly successful stakeholder presentation, Karen said, loud enough for the entire room to hear, honestly, Daniel's the only reason this project's still on track. I caught the look on Paul's face, that tight-jawed, red in the face, can't believe this is happening look, and inside, I smiled, but I didn't let it get to my head. Not yet. I kept my head down, kept delivering results. While Paul scrambled to control the narrative, he'd try to undermine me in side conversations, make jokes about me being Karen's pet project. But the more he tried, the worse he looked, because at this point, I had receipts, data, results, and leadership was watching. I worked late nights, weekends, sacrificed sleep, but it was worth it, because with every successful milestone, with every on-time delivery, with every problem I solved that no one else could, I was building something. Not just a project, but a reputation. One that stretched far beyond Paul's little corner of the office. I was becoming indispensable, and the people who used to laugh at me were starting to realize that the guy they thought was harmless was turning into a serious threat. And the best part, they had no idea what was coming next, because while they were busy gossiping in break rooms, I was setting the foundation to take all of them out. One by one. Success has a funny way of changing how people look at you. 1 month ago, I was invisible, background noise, the guy they dumped work on, the afterthought. Now, I could feel the shift. I in the way people greeted me in the halls. I in the way directors paused to ask my opinion after meetings. I in the way my inbox started filling with invites to calls I was never on before, strategy sessions, quarterly forecasting, leadership, planning, places where decisions actually happened. And suddenly, I was there. I in the room. At the table. Karen became my biggest ally. She'd CC me on threads where I had no business being included, forward me confidential memos, pull me aside after meetings with quick, low-voiced comments like, keep an eye on this vendor, I want your take, or I like how you handled that last presentation. Let's talk about next steps for you. Next steps. I knew what that meant. Promotion, but not just a title bump, something bigger. Then came the day I knew everything was about to change. Karen called me into her office, closed the door, sat down across from me. Her tone? Different, quieter, almost conspiratorial. You've probably noticed Paul's been struggling. I kept my face neutral, but inside, my heart jumped. We've had complaints, she continued. Missed deadlines, inappropriate comments in meetings, low team morale. She sighed. There's going to be a restructuring. That word, restructuring, corporate code for heads are about to roll. Then she said something that nearly made me forget how to breathe. Between you and me, if things keep trending this way, you're at the top of my list to step in. I nodded, slowly, pretending to be surprised, pretending to need time to process. But inside, I was screaming, because for the first time ever, I was hearing what I dreamed of for years, not from some vague HR survey, not from a performance review filled with buzzwords, but from a senior VP, face to face, real, tangible, close. For the next 2 weeks, I stayed laser-focused, delivered every report early, handled every escalation calmly, took ownership of team issues that weren't even mine, and Paul got worse. He started snapping at people in meetings, missing deadlines, throwing blame around like confetti at one point. He even tried dumping a failed client project on me, but this time, I pushed back, politely, professionally, but firmly, and when Karen witnessed that, she pulled me aside afterward. That's exactly the leadership approach we need here. Then, it happened. A company-wide email, subject, leadership transition announcement. Paul was moving on to new opportunities. Translation, fired, escorted, out of the building before lunch. By 3 p.m., his name was off the org chart, and 2 hours after that, Karen called me into her office again. I walked in, closed the door behind me, and she smiled. Let's talk about your future here. Interim team lead for now, but with the right performance? She paused, gave me that look, the one I'd waited years to see. Permanent leadership role, potential director track. I nodded, calm on the outside, exploding on the inside. Because while the rest of the office was still processing Paul's exit, I was already planning my next move. Because interim was just the beginning. I wasn't stopping until I had it all. Being interim team lead wasn't just a title change. It was a shift in gravity. Point one day, I was sitting at my old desk, taking orders, nodding along, playing the office clown they all thought I was. The next, I was at Paul's old desk, with his nameplate gone, with my inbox flooded with meeting invites I never had access to before, with the power to decide who did what, and more importantly, who didn't. The first few days, awkward doesn't even begin to cover it. The same people who used to joke about me, now they had to report to me. Mark, suddenly a lot quieter in meetings, and no more sarcastic digs. No more cutting me off mid-sentence. He'd sit there, taking notes, avoiding eye contact. Samantha from HR, super friendly now. Congrats on the promotion, so well-deserved. Funny how fast people change when they realize the guy they used to laugh at now controls their project timelines, their performance reviews, their futures. I didn't come in swinging, didn't start firing people left and right. That wasn't my style. I played it smart, professional, focused, but I made changes. The first thing I did? Redistributed the workload. Fairly, and more dumping everything on me or the junior analysts. Mark started getting actual deliverables with real deadlines. Samantha lost her little flexible work from home whenever I feel like it privilege. And Rachel from marketing, the one who used to ignore my emails for days, now she was responding within minutes. Because now, I was the guy whose signature could make or break cross-departmental approvals. And the meetings? Oh, the meetings, where I used to sit in the back, quietly taking notes. Now I ran them. I set the agenda. I called on people directly. Mark, walk us through your numbers. Samantha, I need status updates by end of day. And when someone tried to dodge responsibility, I called it out, professionally, but clearly, letting everyone in the room know I wasn't here to play. Not anymore. But the best part, the performance evaluations. I sat there with a stack of feedback forms, remembering every little slight, every dismissive comment, every joke made at my expense, and I wrote the truth, accurate, documented, undeniable. Because if they wanted to play corporate games, I was done being the pawn. I was becoming the player, and leadership noticed. Karen pulled me aside after one particularly efficient team presentation. You've got a natural command of the room now, she said. People are responding to you. Yeah, because fear and respect, they're powerful motivators. And for the first time, I had both, but I wasn't satisfied. Not yet, because interim was temporary, and I had my eyes set on something permanent. The official title, the office, the salary, the final nail in the coffin that would make every single person who ever laughed at me watch me sign their paychecks. And that day was getting closer, faster than any of them realized. It happened on a Thursday morning, the kind of morning where the air felt heavy, like something big was about to happen. I was at my desk, reviewing quarterly performance reports when I got the ping. A meeting invite from the CEO's executive assistant. Subject line, leadership discussion, executive boardroom. 11 a.m. attendees, me, Karen, and the CEO, plus a couple of names I recognized from the executive team. My heart skipped, hands sweating, mind racing. This wasn't a routine check-in. This was big. At 10:55 a.m. I straightened my tie, wiped my hands on my pants, and walked toward the boardroom. The hallway felt longer than usual. Coworkers glanced at me as I passed. Some looked surprised, some curious. Mark stared like he'd seen a ghost. I didn't break stride, didn't make eye contact, kept my face neutral. But inside, my heart was pounding. I stepped into the boardroom. Long table. Floor-to-ceiling windows. The kind of place where real decisions happened. Karen gave me a nod as I Saturday. The CEO, Mr. Thomas, looked up from his tablet. Daniel, good to finally meet you properly. I shook his hand, tried to stay calm, but every muscle in my body felt like it was vibrating. Then, they got straight to it.no small talk.no fluff.mr. Thomas leaned forward. We've been following your work these past few months. Karen's spoken highly of your leadership during the Q4 project and your ability to stabilize the team after Paul's departure. I nodded, careful, measured, let him lead. We're at a crossroads, he continued. The director of operations position has been a revolving door lately. We need stability, someone who understands the team, but also knows how to execute at scale. Then, the pause, that deliberate corporate pause, where you know the next sentence will change your life. We're offering you the interim director role, effective immediately. I blinked, swallowed hard, tried not to let my jaw drop. Karen gave me a small smile. Mr. Thomas added, we'll monitor performance for the next 90 days. If all goes well, we'll remove the interim part. I nodded slowly. Thank you for the opportunity. I won't let you down. Inside, I wanted to scream. To jump across the table. To high five every person in the room. But I kept it professional, focused, because this wasn't just about celebration. This was about execution, about proving that I belonged here. When I walked out of that boardroom, everything felt different. The hallway felt smaller. The people I passed looked at me with new eyes. Not the joke, not the afterthought, but the guy heading for the top. By 3 p.m. that day, the announcement went out. Company-wide. Effective immediately, Daniel, last name, will serve as interim director of operations. I sat back at my new desk, the one with the window, and smiled. Because this wasn't luck, that wasn't charity. It was earned. Every late night, every overlooked project, every insult I swallowed. It all led here, and I wasn't stopping. Not now. Not ever. The first week as interim director, a blur. Meetings, strategy sessions, budget approvals, performance reviews. Suddenly, every decision mattered. Every email I sent, every word I spoke carried weight I'd never felt before. It wasn't just about doing good work anymore. It was about steering an entire division, about being the guy people looked to for answers, for leadership, for direction. But of course, not everyone was happy about it, especially the ones who used to laugh at me. Mark? Let's start with him. Suddenly, he was the king of constructive criticism, undermining me in small ways. Hey, just wondering if Daniel has enough experience to manage client escalations at this level. Or maybe we should bring in someone external for oversight, just to be safe. Safe. Right, like he cared about safety. Samantha? Same story. Suddenly sending feedback on my leadership style, forwarding my internal emails to HR for tone review. Rachel from marketing went from ignoring me to passive-aggressively CCNG half the company on every minor deliverable. They weren't saying it out loud, but I knew what they were thinking. Let's make him fail. Let's prove he doesn't belong here. But what they didn't realize, I'd been playing this game longer than they knew. I knew every trick, every back channel, every political maneuver, because I spent years watching them. And now, it was my turn. I tackled every challenge head-on. When Mark questioned my client handling, I took the lead on our biggest account's quarterly review and closed the deal with a 20% upsell. When Samantha tried pulling HR into our team dynamics, I invited the head of HR to sit in on my next leadership meeting. By the end of that call, Samantha was the one being coached on collaboration, and Rachel, her little passive-aggressive email chains, I started replying with full transparency, looping in senior leadership, documenting everything. After 2 weeks, she backed off. Hard, but the real challenge was internal. It wasn't just about silencing them. It was about silencing that voice inside me. The one that kept whispering, "Are you sure you're good enough? What if they're right? What if you're just an office joke with a new title?" But every time that doubt crept in, I reminded myself, I earned this, not through favoritism, not through politics, but through grit, consistency, results that I kept showing up, kept delivering, kept outworking, and outsmarting every single one of them. 3 weeks in, Karen pulled me aside again. "We're impressed," she said. "The board is watching, and they like what they see." She smiled. "Keep this up, and we'll be dropping the interim title sooner than you think." I walked out of her office with my head high, because for the first time, I wasn't just reacting to what they threw at me. I was setting the pace, driving the narrative, leading, and for the first time in my career, they were the ones scrambling to catch up. If getting the title of interim director felt like climbing a mountain, what came next was like standing on the edge of a cliff during a storm. 2 months in, right when I was starting to find my rhythm, right when the whispers about making my role permanent were getting louder, the crisis hit hard. Our largest client, a multi-million-dollar account that accounted for nearly 30% of our department's revenue, announced they were pulling out, effective immediately. In a warning, in a negotiation window just gone. Apparently, they were unhappy with the last 2 quarters of service, poor communication, missed KPIs, broken promises, all things that happened under Paul's leadership. But guess who inherited the fallout? Me. The news hit like a bomb. Morning Slack channels blew up, emergency meetings called, emails flooding in from every department. And the worst part, the board was furious. This wasn't just a small hiccup. This was the kind of account loss that could tank our quarterly revenue targets, that could trigger layoffs, that could end careers, including mine, especially mine. The pressure was unreal. I barely slept, spent 3 straight days running damage control, client calls, internal crisis meetings, drafting retention strategies for the remaining accounts. Karen pulled me into her office, her tone more serious than I'd ever heard. "This is your proving ground, Daniel." She said it flat, no sugarcoating. "Sink or swim. Either you stabilize this, or we're going to have to make some hard decisions." Hard decisions, meaning my interim title, my entire future here, hanging by a thread. That I didn't flinch, that didn't panic, didn't let anyone see me sweat. That I called an all-hands meeting with my team, stood at the front of the room, looked each one of them in the eye. "I'm not here to sugarcoat this. That we're in trouble, but if you're willing to put in the work, we can turn this around." I laid out a plan: client engagement blitz, personal outreach to every high-value account, immediate service audits, realignment of all project teams. And me? I led from the front, first in, last out. On every call, reviewing every report, answering emails at 3 a.m. Because if I was going down, I'd go down swinging. But deep down, I wasn't going down. I refused. And you know what? It worked. Slowly, the bleeding stopped. That we secured renewals with 2 other major clients, preventing another loss. We implemented new service models that reduced churn by 15% in just 6 weeks. And when the next revenue report came out, we not only closed the gap left by the lost account, we'd exceeded forecast for the quarter by 8%. The day the numbers dropped, Karen called me. 3 words: "You did it." And a week later, an official calendar invite hit my inbox. Subject line: Executive Leadership Team Meeting, Promotion Discussion, Daniel, last name. I sat there, staring at my screen, smiling, because after everything, after every late night, every insult, every ounce of doubt, I was about to get everything I worked for. And they, the ones who laughed, were about to watch me sit at the very top. The morning of the announcement, I barely slept. That I sat at my kitchen table, tie already knotted, coffee going cold, just staring at the company-wide calendar invite. All hands meeting, leadership announcement, 10 a.m., main conference hall. Mandatory attendance, over 200 people, every department, every team, every single person who'd ever laughed behind my back. They were all going to be there. And this time, I wouldn't be sitting in the back. ROW'd 9:45. I walked into the conference hall. The air was thick, buzzing with speculation. I caught the glances, the whispers. "Did you hear it's Daniel? No way him, director? You're kidding." Karen pushed for him hard. Apparently the board's on board too. I kept my face neutral. calm, steady. Inside, my heart was pounding. But outwardly, I looked like I belonged there, because now, I did. Karen took the stage first, gave a brief speech about leadership transition, about resilience, about performance under pressure, and then she smiled, looked straight at me. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce our new Director of Operations, Daniel. Last name. The room erupted in applause, some genuine, some polite, some forced, but I didn't care because applause is still applause. And as I stepped onto that stage, I scanned the crowd, deliberately. Mark? Arms crossed, clapping, but with that fake, tight smile. Samantha, looking down at her phone, but still clapping. Rachel from marketing, trying to look supportive, but her eyes said everything. Shock, disbelief, defeat. That I took the mic, cleared my throat, and started. You know me, some of you think you do. A few nervous laughs. I've been with this company for years. That I've sat at that desk, stayed late nights, handled projects no one wanted. I let that hang in the air, let it sink in. And I learned something in the process. Sometimes, the person you overlook the most is the one you should have been betting on all along. The room went still, silent, and then more applause, louder. This time, real, unavoidable, undeniable. That I wrapped up with a simple promise. I'm here to deliver, for this team, for this company, and for every single person who thought I couldn't. Dropped the mic, figuratively, walked off stage, and as I did, I caught Karen's eye. She gave me a knowing nod, because both of us knew exactly what just happened. That wasn't just a promotion. That was a statement, that a line in the sand. And from that day on, nobody ever laughed at me again. That if you've listened this far, and any part of my story feels familiar, let me say this as clearly as I can. You're not crazy. That you're not overreacting. And most importantly, you're not the joke. Not in the office, not in your friend group, not in your family, not anywhere. People love to label others, especially the quiet ones, the people pleasers, the yes men. The ones who stay late, pick up the slack, smile through the disrespect. They get comfortable thinking you'll never push back, thinking you'll never speak up, thinking you'll always stay in your corner, quiet, small, safe for them. But the truth is that all it takes is one decision, one moment, one spark of enough. And the second you make that choice, you're dangerous. You become the person they never prepared for, the one who knows the game, knows the players, and knows exactly how to win. IT wasn't luck that got me here. IT wasn't a lucky break. That IT was late nights, sacrificed weekends, studying the system, building alliances, staying 3 steps ahead, learning when to stay silent, and when to speak loud enough for the whole company to hear. And yeah, sometimes it meant swallowing my pride, playing the long game, letting them think they were winning until they weren't, until they were sitting in that audience, forced to clap for me, forced to watch me take the seat they swore I'd never reached. If you're where I was, sitting at your desk, feeling invisible, wondering if it's even worth fighting back, let me be the proof. It is, because the biggest revenge isn't screaming at them. Or sending a petty email. Or slamming doors on the way out. The biggest revenge is thriving, leveling up, making them regret every single time they underestimated you. Start small, set boundaries, speak up, keep receipts, and never, ever let anyone convince you that you're less than you are. You're not the office joke. You're the plot twist, the comeback, the one they'll never forget. And when your day comes, when you're standing at the front of that room, while they sit there, clapping, remember this feeling. Own it, because you earned it. Every single step.